Welcome back, guys. So today's video, we're going to start working on this YZ250. Just picked this bike up the other day. We'll bring in and let's go ahead and take a look at what we got for the project. So the first thing you can see right away on this bike, we got no cylinder right now. But here's our piston, still connected, everything like that. Really doesn't look that bad. I'm going to bring you in, let's take a look at it. So like I said, you can see we got no cylinder attached right now on this project bike. But honestly, guys, the piston doesn't look that bad. Also, with this bike, we got a big old box of goodies. So I'll lay this stuff out in a second, and we'll take a look at what we really got with this bike. A lot of things like the shocks are definitely beat. This front wheel bearings are no good. Now, originally when I was checking this bike out, I didn't notice that somebody must have cut and made their own motor mounts. You can see here, and I'll give this bottom end a little wiggle here. Hold on. I don't know if you guys can see that, but anyway, the motor's not bolted down tight right now, and you can see somebody made up some brackets out of aluminum and they just washed out over time. But right away you can see somebody maybe spent time, polished this bottom case up for whatever reason. Something else that's pretty cool, back in the day it looks like they made these wide foot pegs for this bike. Now the guy told me this is an 89, but there is a pink shock in there, which I believe would have maybe been from like 90, maybe 91 or 92, something weird like that. And if it was an 89, rear fender would be different as well. It's supposed to be the WR. Now the WR should have a little bit heavier stator in here, so we'll pop that off soon and take a look at that. And it was also supposed to have a wire ran to do like a headlight or something, they said, but I couldn't really tell at first glance. Also though, the major thing though with this WR, if that's what it is, it's got a little bit shorter first gear, but then your fourth and fifth are much taller. And they say they should be able to hit about 90 some miles an hour, 90 plus, where your stock YZ250 from 89, the motocross race version, would only do about 70. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and I will lay these parts out and see what we got on this bike, start on this project. Also, I bought this about a week ago. I picked this up for $726, okay? And I got parts already came in the mail. We'll take a look at that stuff. Okay, so this is what we have to work with on this bike. Bags of parts. Somebody else's project we're taking on here. Like I said, I did buy this a week ago, so I did have time to order these radiators off of eBay. Now the reason why I went ahead and ordered these was I couldn't find, the one thing that I was missing was these radiator guards, and I couldn't find them anywhere. I was online and bought this on eBay, was my bracket for the radiator, and I'll show you on the bike now. So if I bring in, you can see on the bar that's with the bike is all bent. The tab is missing, so we couldn't even mount it there if we wanted to. So for the price that somebody was asking for just this bracket and a little bit more, I ended up finding somebody that was selling these radiators like this. Like I said, the main thing though was these guards I needed in the front. Now this was the bar that came with them, so hopefully this should be the right one. Another thing that I noticed on this one that I bought, guys, because sometimes you get stuff on eBay and people accidentally mismark parts. I believe this would have maybe been off of a smaller bike, or definitely an older or smaller, because take a look at how different the gap is where it bolts up to the frame. So this would have went on like a smaller frame bike, or maybe a 125 or something, I'm not quite sure. And you can tell right away at this bend how it's not as aggressive, and the way how the one tab is mounted is different as well, where you can see here it's mounted down and this is mounted out that way. So sometimes things like that. This was, I think, a $12 piece I bought off eBay. Pretty much shit out of luck. I'm not going to go through the hassle of trying to return $12 part. I had this box come in the mail today. I thought we were going to have our gaskets, and I thought I was going to be able to start throwing this motor together and stuff like that just to check on it. I'll take you in, guys, and let's take a look at this cylinder now. Right away you can see in the cylinder, nothing looks major. Nothing looks too scary. However, I am new to the exhaust valve or power valve. This one's also a little bit different on the earlier model. Another thing that I noticed when I was looking over this bike, you can see we had like a gouge went up this cylinder. I was looking and feeling around on the bottom end, and as I rotated the crank, I did notice a chunk of this crap come up. Now I don't know how good this is going to come up on picture. It's definitely not a piece of metal, and it can't be no part of like seal or nothing like that, but damn it, man, it almost looks like a shell or something. It almost looks like the bottom of a damn shell. So who knows, this could have been like a squirrel or something, maybe was eating something up on. I mean, you never know when you take on a project like this, but right away you can tell this is a aftermarket crank. I'll go along to the other side and show you. I'll get up close and see if you guys can see that or not. Okay, so it should come up there. You can see where it says hot rod. So it's definitely an aftermarket crank that's in this bike. And the up and down feels great on it. So I wouldn't say nothing's wrong with the up and down on this crank. There's a little bit of side to side, but definitely the bearing in the actual piston feels a little worn. But really the piston itself, guys, doesn't look that bad. I don't know what my plans are yet today. I'm gonna play around with the stuff a little bit more, check out, get more familiar with things. As far as I know, that arm that activates your exhaust valve should actually go off of, I think it's a device where as the RPMs get higher, that's what's going to activate that arm. So it shouldn't just be like geared into the bottom. And I'm not even 100% sure yet or nothing like that. But I did notice as I rotated the motor, that arm was not moving. And I don't think that actually moves until you get higher RPMs. And that's somehow going to open your exhaust valve. So I'm going to play around with that a little bit more and maybe try to just throw the cylinder on. So that way I can at least kick this bike over and double check if we even have spark on this thing. So I've been playing around with this bottom end a little bit more. I did get one more little chunk of maybe some type of acorn, or I'm not even sure what it is. But also over the time this bike sat with the top end off, who knows how long, you know, people just can't resist hitting this Kickstarter, turning the bottom end over. And what happens is the piston would come and kind of bottom out on the crank, the bottom case here. As you can see, it'll come down and want to bottom out. And it ended up causing two burrs here where that piston dented and it kind of chunked out. So all I did was I took a little bit of this fine sandpaper and touched up these two tabs here, so that way that isn't going to rub up in our cylinder. So before we go ahead and throw this cylinder on, while we're doing this bottom end exam, I'm going to go ahead, take a look at the oil. You can tell I got a nice fresh pan here, bolts ready to go. And let's take a look at what we got. Now it looks like Yamaha had like a hollowed out drain bolt. It doesn't look like there was a magnet in there, or maybe there was like a magnet insert. Oil's coming out. Now it is black as night, but at least looks like the stars didn't come out tonight. So the stars don't seem like they're shining. I'm not seeing no huge chunks of metal or you know, metallic flake catching my eye or nothing like that. And while I'm here, I might as well see if there's any coolant in this bottom end still. Well, definitely some coolant coming out. Looks pretty cool and everything like that. No like you know, motor oil coming out with it or nothing like that. While I'm here, I was gonna pop this cover off. I had no problem with this bolt, but man, this one, phew. Here's your torque wrench guys out there that cry about the torque wrench. Why don't you tell the guy that was working on his bike before me, because I would never do something like this. Oh my God, what the hell? That's scary. That's scary. Oh man. Having big issue here with this top bolt. I'm not sure what the deal is. I want to grab my impact gun just to get it some pressure on it. And as you can see, I sheared the end of this little cheap ass extension. And now that I'm looking at this thing, I don't even know how this was ever even This is beyond cheap, though. I don't know how the hell this ever ended up in my toolbox, but there it is. So now I'm stuck with a tab in the end of my socket. I'm gonna have to get a punch or something, knock that piece out. All right, we got a crap spin on there this time. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of heat. All right, here we go. Will it strip or come out? The moment of truth. Ho, 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 ho. How you like that hot explosion? Hey, we got that, baby. We did get that covered pretty hot. Check, make sure we didn't melt our damn water pump. All right, cool. Everything like that looks good. I was a little bit worried that maybe I melted my water pump. Now, I wasn't even sure if this was plastic or not when I did this, but I just remembered on the CR I had a plastic gear. So luckily that all looks good. We don't have a stripped out bolt in here to dig with. So man, that's good. That's good. That's good. Just got done throwing some oil in here, and this may not look that tiny on camera, guys, but there is no way Yamaha is still using this size, because I mean, this was ridiculous. This is my smallest funnel, and believe me, the average person probably don't even have a funnel this small. This was a super small one, and you can see I still couldn't even fit it in there. I literally had to hold this thing up and still get my oil to drip in there, and it still made a mess. So one thing I will point out, this is driving me crazy. Adding oil into this bike is a pain in the ass. That is ridiculous. Look at that little pinhole. And then, you know, once again, I'm no expert, but this is my first time messing around with this Yamaha. It looks like for you to check your oil level, I don't know if you guys can see this Phillips head hiding back here, but that's what it looks like. It looks like it's hiding way back behind the rear brake lever. Pop that screw out. You can see we got a little bit of oil draining down now. That'll bring us to our correct level. All right, next we're going to throw our cylinder on. We'll throw a little bit of oil around these rings. Get it a sloppy. And then we're going to pop this cylinder in. All right, let's see what type of rope we need here for this. Going down. Well, the piston definitely slid in with no problem. So maybe it is time for a rebuild on this bike. No way. Well, I think we know why the motor mounts are all loose. It doesn't even look like you can pop the cylinder off on this year with the bottom end in. I can't believe this. Let me go over on that side, take a look. You've got to be kidding me. I've never even seen anything like this. Was that going to go that way? Huh. Well, here we go. Learning something new every day. I've never dealt with this before. So if I bring you in and you guys can see where that tab, now that should be where your springs mount for your header. And you can tell it's sitting right there in that frame. Man, check out these factory motor mounts, man. Whew. That is factory. So obviously somebody made these front brackets out of aluminum and whatnot, and they're all messed up. Also, I had to take out this bottom engine mount bolt. So you can see now, the only thing holding the bottom end in would be our rear mount. Bottom one's out, as well as our front motor mounts. I'm just simply going to take this chunk of wood I got here, and I'll rotate it up like that to block our motor on an angle. And let's see how this goes. Take number 2. So we got the cylinder on, and you know I like pointing out when I make stupid mistakes on this channel. I was all so focused on looking up in here, and I went to move my Kickstarter, and I got no movement, and I'm like, oh my God, my piston's jammed, my piston's jammed. Well, take a look at this frame. So all I was doing was just simply, I can't even move my Kickstarter. Let's drop this motor down now. Oh, fit it into place there. All right, now our motor should be low enough. All right, there we go. I said, oh man, my bottom end's locked up. All right, let's throw a spark plug in this thing and cross our fingers. Here's the spark plug that came with the bike. So this is whatever the guy pulled out. Hopefully this is a good spark plug. Doesn't look like anything should be wrong with it. You see that, right? Yep. Oh man, it's shocking me even. Ready? One more time. Get up in there close for him. Man, can you have any more spark than that? Right?
Good, good.
Yeah, that thing's kicking. All right, guys, that's a good sign. So that's one good thing out of today. All right, bring you in real quick. You guys can see how much play is in that piston. It slid in the cylinder with no problem. So yeah, definitely time for a new top end. But our spark is jumping out, ready to go. Luckily, the KX 125 we're working on needs the same thing. Cylinder's got to get done in a new piston. So I'll have 2 cylinders to take to the shop. Going over this bike more because I definitely want to try to determine whether or not this is the WR or not. Once again, if this is the WR, we should have a little bit taller 4th and 5th gear, and it should have a heavier flywheel. But from what I've seen, I should have had like a connector here to run a light on, and nothing here looks like that to me. I do see like another connector kind of spliced into this line, but I doubt you would do that because that kind of almost seems like that's what's going to my kill switch. Another thing with this bike, man, some people like to do Sudoku, some people like to do puzzles. This thing has been a puzzle. When I first looked at this bike before I had ordered, this is once again was the radiator I got that was marked. The guy listed it as an 89 WR. But take a look at this radiator here. Bring him in and take a look at. You can see this bar was bent. There was nothing to mount it to. And you can see on this radiator, it must have been a different year because it's not even broken off. Coming on this side now. Now on this side, you can see your 2 tabs here and here where it would have held your guards. Now this would have took a bolt, but obviously there's nothing here on the frame. And come along to this side. And then you also have another mount up here that has nowhere to be mounted as well. This here is for your actual tank. So this bike's been a mystery. It's like a puzzle. I'm not seeing the lead, but I do know this flywheel should be heavier. So we're going to pop off this flywheel, pop off this cover, and take a look. Hopefully this flywheel is the heavier flywheel. All these bolts look the same size so far. All right, here we go. Moment of truth now. Now, from what I've seen, guys, I believe that is the heavier duty flywheel. So this should be the WR. This should be the WR. I know the flywheel for just the standard YZ was like, it almost looked like 2 pieces or something. But this should be the little bit heavier flywheel. So, unless for some reason somebody really doctored this thing up and put the flywheel of a WR, or maybe somebody over time switched the wiring, I'm not quite sure. All I know is we're definitely getting spark. We seem to have the heavier flywheel. And definitely this radiator that the guy had listed as an 89, I can tell right away is going to, oh, I got it upside down. I can tell right away it's going to mount up at the right parts and tie into that bracket. You can see I got the bike kind of roughly mocked up. I threw the plastics on it for now. Next, I'm going to tear this stuff down and mess around with those radiators I bought. Because like I said, this is definitely the wrong radiator and I couldn't even properly mount that plastic piece. Went to pull this radiator off, dropped my hose clamp down in here. And I lost my good magnet. I haven't been able to find it, so I only got this little like magnet pen. See if we can get this bad boy out or not. Oh, feels like I got something. Here we go. Oh, and it just fits through there. Anyway, it hit me with 2-for-1 slammer. As this fell, I noticed this is totally stripped out. So we're going to have to do some operation on this frame. Also going to have to operate on this part of the frame. You can see where that one motor mount is sheared off and stuck in there. Got all my radiator parts laid out, and I'm going to do a hybrid of what I got here. This is the radiator that I bought, and you can tell it's bent a little bit out of shape, and the guard itself doesn't really even want to stay on the radiator. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this over. This is the new bar. We're going to have to switch up. You can tell how I think they bent this out of shape, maybe even on purpose to try to rig up that other radiator. Anyway, I'm going to throw this stuff on. A couple other things, like the radiators I bought came with the original hoses, where the bike came with a couple automotive hoses the guy replaced it with. You can even see this oversized hose clamp. So something like that. I want to give this bike the royal treatment, so that's got to go. Also had the factory one that goes right into your head. All right, we got these radiators mocked up now, and things are looking, whoa, and things are looking a lot better. Took a tumble. Let me bring you on in. You can see our bar is looking good here. Things are starting to line up the way they should. Now that we have the correct angle coming out down bottom here and the right hose, you can tell all that's looking nice and factory the way it wants to be. Starting to bring this bike back. I did unbag, I guess you'd say I unbagged my exhaust valve and got this far at least, that these two pieces bolt together. Looks like that's going to go in our cylinder this way. And trying to figure out these other parts and pieces. I can see this little bushing or holder here. It's got a nasty dent on the side. And then take a look at this other one, the bike that just keeps on giving here. Looks like where it'll take a bolt broke off here. And let's go along to the other side, because this is starting to look too familiar. Huh. I bet that's going to line up too. Watch this. Let me put that cap cover on there. I mean, I'm no expert, but the detective work looks like something gouged this cylinder that time, came right up and maybe smacked where it bolts up here. You can also see like the indent in the aluminum right there as well. So who knows, we might have to get a whole new exhaust valve for this thing, or at least track down some parts. Another thing that I noticed was the end here looks pretty boogered up. I don't know if you guys can see that. So this here doesn't look right. That looks pretty chewed up. And then I'm not quite sure how this would bolt up to here. That don't look right. So I don't even know. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm going to take a little bit more in-depth look at the exhaust valve and try to figure that out and how this thing works. This was just a bag, what it looks like the cover. And no surprise here, we only have 1, 2, and they're mix match bolts out of the 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what the heck now? And let's bring you into number 4 here. Wow, that don't even look like there's any threads in there. Oh man, you gotta be kidding me. Oh, there you go, look at that. So that just pushed right in. There's no threads in this spot no more. And, oh, there you go. So you can see that'll thread in there. Now, this shouldn't be too hard of a fix. I do have that like aluminum brazing rod. So hopefully we can heat that up and drop a dab or so of that in there and maybe re-tap that and get away with the same diameter bolt. Otherwise, we'll have to go with the next step, fatter. So that's how this project is coming along. A lot of surprises here, trying to figure out what the heck this thing even is. But for $700, $726 is all I had on me at the time. The guy really kind of wanted $750. But anyway, let me know what you guys think below in the comments. We're going to be working on this thing here in the next couple months. I'll be entering this in the Built to Broke contest as well, along with my KTM. So I'm waiting on gaskets, and even though this top end is shot and we know we need a new top end, I'd like to put the gaskets on and just fire this bike up and hopefully feel what the transmission feels like, and go from there. All right, I'll catch you guys next time.